This is Sean O'Malley, and you're watching Full-Time MMA. Don't be a bagel-biting, bagel-bitch boy, bagel-bitch back.
Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, because you know what time it is. It's full-time
MMA.
And what's up, full-time family? I got a special treat for you guys. Actually, this is a great time to do these. I already did my heavyweight bracket Grand Prix for the heavyweight Grand Prix going on right now currently for Bellator. They recently announced the welterweight world Grand Prix, and I'm going to do it again. Right now, I'm actually undefeated on my heavyweight Grand Prix bracket. We got the semifinals coming up. Of course, Chael Sonnen taking on Fedor Emelianenko, and then you've got Ryan Bader taking on Matt Mitrione on the other side. Winners square off in the finals. So I got the quarterfinals right in my bracket prediction over there. Just a quick update, I got Chael Sonnen winning. If you go all the way back to when the bracket was announced, I did it kind of like March Madness. I got Chael versus Bader in the finals. We'll see if that happens. I'm not super confident in my Chael pick. I mean, he's a former middleweight coming up, taking on one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, Bader. That's a scary pick for me, honestly. Super scary. So, but it's just fun for me to do these bracket predictions like this, so maybe you guys will enjoy these as well. Actually, the heavyweight Grand Prix got a great response, so we'll see if we can continue our streak. But here is my predictions for the welterweight Grand Prix that was recently announced. You can see on the left side of the bracket in the first round we have Douglas Lima taking on Andre Korshakov. Isn't that who he's taking on? And then we've got Michael Venom Page taking on Paul Daley in a very highly anticipated welterweight fight we've all been waiting for. Holy smokes. Not only is MVP stepping up the competition he's fighting, but if he can get past Paul Daley, he's got to continue to fight the best fighters in Bellator. So we will see if he's ready. One of the most exciting strikers and probably biggest stars in Bellator's welterweight division, Michael Venom Page. So yo, this welterweight tournament is going to be great, and MVP is one of my favorite reasons. I can't wait to see him first of all take on Paul Daley, see how he looks in that fight. He looked great in his most recent fight against David Rickles. You've been doing some pro boxing. I mean, I'm a big fan of MVP. I've just been waiting for this moment that his competition stepped up, and now it's here in the welterweight Grand Prix, so I can't fucking wait. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, we've got the jiu-jitsu player Neiman Gracie taking on the very talented wrestler Ed Ruth. That's going to be a great fight. Reminds me of the old school UFC tournaments, grappler versus grappler, wrestler versus jiu-jitsu. However it goes, you know, just style versus style. That's what that reminds me of. And then, of course, we got the welterweight champion Rory Macdonald taking on another very talented wrestler, John Tuck. Rory Macdonald, well-rounded, one of the best welterweights on the planet, if not the best welterweight on the planet. We'll know more about that after this weekend. I mean, Tyron Woodley could lose his belt. Gegard Mousasi versus Rory Macdonald is scheduled for later this year. If Rory Macdonald can win that second belt, he puts himself in that conversation. I mean, if you got to win over Gegard Mousasi and you're the welterweight champ over there, that's super impressive. And you've already got a win over Tyron Woodley, so Rory Macdonald is one of the best welterweights on the planet for sure. He's going to be taking on John Fitch in the first round. So let's get into my bracket predictions, my Bellator Madness, March Madness. Let's move this a little up out of the way. There we go. All right, so you can see in the fight that kicks off the tournament on September 29th. This is also going to be the same night as Rampage versus Vanderlei 4, and I also believe Rory Macdonald versus Gegard Mousasi, the super fight, will be September 29th. That's going to be a huge night for Bellator. Can't wait for that card. Stacked. But I'm going to actually pick Douglas Lima, man, and this is a trilogy fight. These guys are 1-1. Douglas Lima, former Bellator champion, welterweight. I believe Korshakov might have been the champ as well. But yeah, man, this is a trilogy fight between two former champions, welterweight champions at Bellator, two of the top welterweights in the world, of course, because Bellator, even if they don't have all the depth of the UFC, at the top of their divisions, they've got some very talented fighters. And Douglas Lima and Korshakov are that. They're at the top of the divisions. They are very talented. I'm taking Douglas Lima, though, in that first fight. You can see in the predictions. Moving on to Daley versus MVP. Yo, I don't even... fuck, it's so hard for me to pick that fight. That's my most anticipated fight of the first round for sure, man. So hard to pick that fight. Paul Daley, very experienced UFC veteran, fought for the best promotions around the world, been fighting around the world, even before the UFC and Bellator, fighting the toughest guys, the Jorge Masvidal, the tough matchups. Paul Daley is a very talented striker. His weakness is probably his grappling, as we saw in his John Fitch performance. But the thing is, this isn't going to be a grappling match. MVP is not going to be looking to take him down. That's why I like the way that this tournament, the brackets played out, because you got the grapplers on one side and the strikers on one side. Even if MVP or Paul Daley makes it to the next round, it's not like you got to worry about them getting wrestle-fucked by John Fitch or somebody like that, or Ed Ruth in the next round, because there's more strikers on this side of the tournament. So I like that. So MVP is a striking specialist. I got to give him the edge in this fight. Hard to call. Paul Daley definitely has the more MMA experience, fought tougher guys in MMA, but MVP is a striking specialist. And although Paul Daley is a hard hitter, very experienced in MMA, this is what MVP does. He strikes. Unless Paul Daley's going to mix it up, kind of like, we thought Justin Gaethje might need to do, maybe mix in his wrestling and use it or something, even though Justin Gaethje has better wrestling than Paul Daley, so it's not exactly the same. But either way, that's what I'm saying, is it takes a wrestling strategy in my mind. That's what it would take to beat MVP. You're trying to come in there and strike with MVP, good fucking luck. He's got that sport karate background. I mean, very talented. We just saw he was so hard to figure out for David Rickles, who's got some experience in Bellator, one of their most experienced fighters. He was just getting clipped up so much on the feet to the point, and he couldn't figure out how to get in there. He just had to fucking literally no mas. He said, yo, I'm out of here. Fuck this. I can't figure out how to hit him. I keep getting hit. I'm not going to keep doing this. So he just literally threw the white towel in, essentially. That's the type of problems MVP presents. So I'm taking MVP to win this stand-up fight. I think that's his specialty. That's what it is, man. So yeah, I got MVP. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, still predicting the quarterfinals. First fight, Gracie versus Ruth. I'm actually taking Gracie by submission. He's got a lot of submissions. This is submission artist versus wrestler. Ed Ruth has been taking his time, building his name up. I know he's well-rounded. He's actually even competed in a couple, if I'm not mistaken, jiu-jitsu tournaments, but they might have been gi. I was listening to a recent interview, so he's not no slouch, but fucking Neiman Gracie is a very talented jiu-jitsu player, and even if Ed Ruth, that's where he wants to be. I'm sure he'd rather have his back or, be in top position, but Ed Ruth, likely his path to victory would be trying to grind out Neiman Gracie. And of course, that's a possibility, but Neiman Gracie is going to be slick off of his back, even if Ed Ruth gets the fight where he wants, and he's always going to be dangerous in this fight. If this fight goes to a decision, I got Ed Ruth, even maybe a knockout for Ed Ruth. But I think Neiman Gracie would be able to, is still going to be dangerous in this fight off of his back, and he presents challenges to Ed Ruth. So, going to be a good fight, probably the least known fight on the fight, not as big as the other fights. They're not former champions, they're not big stars, but still, talented wrestler, talented jiu-jitsu. I'm actually giving the jiu-jitsu player the nod. I think he'll be able to find the submission, and so I'm going with Neiman Gracie. Moving on to the champion, Rory Macdonald taking on John Fitch. This is going to be maybe not the most fun fight, maybe not the most entertaining. I mean, there's a lot of grappling that could go on in any John Fitch fight, and Rory Macdonald also has some great grappling himself. So, I mean, maybe the battle of the grapplers, but at the same time, Rory Macdonald's one of the best fighters in the world, well-rounded, and he's also been in some very entertaining fights, especially with that Robbie Lawler performance, very memorable, one of the best fights of all time, in my opinion, just super entertaining. And so we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm picking Rory Macdonald to get the win in this fight, but it's still going to be interesting. I mean, if you're a guy that is actually into MMA, grappling, wrestling, and whatnot, you might like this fight, but not one for the casuals, I'll say that. And then you see we have an alternate bout. Lorenz Larkin is taking on, I'm not sure exactly who he's fighting. I can't see the name. It's a little small on my screen, but either way, that's an alternate bout. I would have actually liked to see Lorenz Larkin in this welterweight Grand Prix, and he still could be if someone gets injured. The winner of this fight could step up and step in. So that's a potential that it could, of course, happen any time here. But Lorenz Larkin actually was going to be in this tournament. This fight might have been in this tournament, but he was trying to get a fight in before it started, I think. And so he was just trying to get another payday type deal, I think, if I listened to Scott Coker's interview correctly. So that's the alternate bout. And of course, as in any tournament, the alternate could step in. Now, the thing about these tournaments is there's a little time in between fights. So unless there's a pretty bad injury, they should be good. I don't know if we'll need the ultimate, but just in case, we got Lorenz Larkin to step in, and he could, you know, shake up this tournament as well. So moving on to the semifinals, though, we got MVP versus Lorenz Larkin. In my predictions, I'm going to give the edge to, that's a hard one too. But I think if it's going to be a more stand-up oriented fight, I'm going to give the edge to Michael Venom Page. If he can beat Paul Daley in my mind, then he might be able to beat Douglas Lima. Douglas Lima, unless he's going to use his wrestling. Either one of these guys. This is MMA. I know these guys at least have basic wrestling skills, but that's what it's going to take. You're going to have to rely heavily, I believe, on your grappling in order to beat a guy like Michael Venom Page. He's a striking specialist. He reminds me of like a Fruity O's version of Anderson Silva. You know, he's kind of like the Kroger brand. It is what it is, but he's doing what Silva used to do. He dances in the octagon. He's got great knockouts. I mean, he fucking caved in Cyborg's skull, the male Cyborg Santos, with that fucking knee. Very dangerous striker, man. And if you're going to get in here and trying to be MMA striking against MVP, who's a striking specialist, good luck. You know, more power to you. But I'm going to give MVP the edge in those fights. So I'm going to give that edge actually to Michael Venom Page. And then when we go to Neiman Gracie versus Rory Macdonald, I'm of course going to give the edge to Rory Macdonald in that fight. I don't know if Neiman Gracie's ready to fight for the title yet. The tournament, the way it presents itself, he's just going to be doing that because the title will be on the line all the way throughout this tournament. But either way, I don't think he's ready to submit Rory Macdonald. That would be crazy for sure. But Rory Macdonald's been in there with some of the best fighters in the world, in the UFC, in Bellator. Like I said, he could be a fucking champ by the time this fight comes around. He's one of the best welterweights in the world. I think he'll be able to defend the submission and get the win over Neiman Gracie, which would leave us with the final of Michael Venom Page fighting Rory Macdonald for the Bellator welterweight title in the finals. And oh my God, how crazy would that fucking be? Michael Venom Page makes his way to a title shot through the welterweight Grand Prix, fights Rory Macdonald, one of the best welterweights on the planet. Ooh, how would that fight go, family? Not gonna lie, so tough to call. I gotta give the edge to my motherfucking dog, Rory Macdonald, one of the best welterweights on the planet. Hard for me to pick against the champ, man. I mean, I think he's a guy, he's well-rounded. He's not just a striker, striking-oriented MMA fighter, great grappling. And he's got a win over the current champion, Tyron Woodley. He's one of the best welterweights on the planet. And in order to be that, you've got to be well-rounded. I think of all the fighters MVP will have faced in this tournament so far, Rory Macdonald will be the most well-rounded, and therefore will be able to potentially get the W. So, to, you know, answer the question, who do I think wins the tournament? I got Rory Macdonald beating Michael Venom Page to win the whole thing. Let me know. And of course, an alternate could always step in, but let me know your predictions in the comments. Let me know how you guys feel about the welterweight world Grand Prix over at Bellator. Are you guys into it? Are you hyped for that Daley versus MVP match? I know I am. With that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments.
Da 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 da! It's the motherfucking DOWG!